crazy hair again. Just kind of letting my hair do whatever it wants lately. Um, Life update. So I don't know what day it is. The 10th, July 10th. Last week on July 5th, uh, I I went through this huge energetic shift and like expansive opening thing, and then within a few hours a friend called and she wanted to buy my van, and she bought the van, and it just happened really really fast. And so after she paid me for my van, I booked our flights to Italy. We are moving to Greece, myself and my two daughters. And my intuition had always said aim for July 15th. We're leaving Grants Pass, where I'm currently living in Southern Oregon, on July 22nd. And then we are flying into Rome on the 29th. We're flying out of Seattle on the 28th. And everything just happened so fast. It's almost like if you've given birth, it's almost like being in labor, where you have to like breathe because the energy is so intense and moving that you need to breathe just to stay alive, just to keep your body going. And I was excited, and it felt good and right, and like everything just flowed and aligned perfectly. And there were all these angel numbers, like all of the money and the finance things were like all like 5555 1111, all these numbers. Um, but it can be a lot. It can be intense when you are used to life being hard, or having to work really hard to accomplish anything, or things maybe almost happening and then not happening. And so then there's like a fear of, okay, is this going to be too good to be true? Is it going to go wrong? Which way should I go? This way? I think I like this way. um our nervous system can only handle so much to its capacity, and we want to expand our capacity to receive, to be in joy, to be surprised and delighted in the best ways by the universe. And a big part of that is breathing. And I've been doing breath work now consistently for about a year, I think, like a few times a month, the breath work session. And then also off and on over the last 4 years, 5 years, doing Wim Hof. And I feel like the breathing is like an allegory for your capacity to be alive and to hold and receive. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm at this little intersection, and there's really loud cars that drive by. These Oregon people with their Oregon men with their loud cars. Um, I know that's other places in the world too, but the breathing, I feel like my capacity to breathe through fear and discomfort, and even like pleasure and excitement, makes me more powerful and capable of receiving more. And we can just relate it to also like sexuality. If you can, and one of my mentors, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but it's basically like when you orgasm, you're crossing over the threshold between pleasure and pain, because they run through the same channels, like neurologically, but you can channel the sensation as either being pleasure or pain. And so orgasm is when the pleasure gets too intense, and then it's like, that little death, which they say in French, the petite mort. But you basically die. But it's like your capacity to hold and receive pleasure like hits its cap, and then the bubble pops. So breathing helps us to literally expand our bodies, but also to be capable of holding more, because that contraction, that an expansion. Yes, baby.
Okay.
And it's like life seems complicated, but it's really kind of simple, and it all comes down to contracting and expanding, which is breathing. As a human, you exhale, and your diaphragm contracts and your lungs contract, and then you inhale and you expand. And so like darkness, contraction is like the darkness, and then expansion is like the light. Contraction is bad, expansion is good. um contraction is feminine, expansion is masculine. It's this duality, polarity that we exist in. And so everything's kind of like this allegory for how things function for us as humans. And our capacity to increase, or our ability to increase our capacity to hold, I feel like is also related to our own divinity. So our capacity to hold more energy, more pleasure, more joy, more love, more ecstasy, all of these things that are related to our divinity on the higher level, because we live in a paradox of like we're fully human and we're fully divine. And the human side is messy and scared and contracts and has ego protection and has all of these energetic games that it thinks it needs to play in order to survive. The divine side of you, the divine aspect, the higher self, knows the truth of like everything's love, everything's one thing. There's no separation, there's no division, there's no lack, there's no loss, there's no death, there's no fear and pain. All of the contractive negative things are born out of that illusion of separation, which is very real for the human. And that doesn't negate the truth of the reality of the divine aspect of ourself and our divinity and our capacity to be unconditional love. So as we expand our capacity to hold more, we expand our capacity to embody more of our higher self and our divinity. And I think this is the game that I'm playing. Is like how divine can I get? How much of the everything, the oneness, goddess, God, can I fit into this little human skin suit that has its limitations, that is going to die, that suffers from pain and fear? How much divinity can I hold in this body in a joyful, ecstatic, pleasurable, beautiful way, fun way? I think we're here to enjoy our lives. I think we're here to have fun and play and revel in like the sensuality and like all of the foods and dancing and sex and music and just the beauty of nature, floating naked on, off of the beach in Maui, little beach where you can be naked and the water's warm and it's beautiful turquoise and you can just go and float and it's like you're in the womb and you feel amazing. Like let's enjoy all of these things instead of spending our time as humans terrified and angry and resentful and bitter and protective and fighting and fighting and fighting. So that's the game I'm playing. I invite you to play this game with me. That's my name, actually. Maya Lila. I've translated it. It's Sanskrit. Maya is the illusion of this reality. Lila means divine play. So I translate my name as the game of God playing human. And I believe this life, it's not a battle. It's not even a school. Like, yes, we learn and we expand and grow, but it can be more fun than school ever was. At least the schools that I was put into as a child in Southern California, that are completely disconnected from the body and sensuality and enjoyment of nature and following joy and bliss and all these things. Like, let's redo all of this so that the focus is on our hair now, on joy and pleasure. Like, why not? That's another thing that I want to do, is reunite eros and sensuality, which is the feminine, and divinity, which historically in our patriarchal societies, divinity has been disconnected from eros. And there's now, a resurgence of people coming home to their bodies, feeling safety in their bodies, working through all the trauma that causes us to stay in a state of separation and disconnection. Like, the cure for trauma is safety and connection. And we're all fucking traumatized, like all of humanity at this point. Like, it's very rare to find a human who's not traumatized. And the way that we come home to our own divinity and to our bodies is through reconnection, safety, pleasure, play. Stay and play instead of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever all the other F words are. Yeah. So that's the update for now. I am getting ready to leave this this country, the United States. I'm still paring down because we're only going to take, like, I'm going to check one suitcase. I think I'm going to try to just check one suitcase. Each of the girls and I will have a carry-on and a backpack, like a small backpack. And yeah, fitting an entire life into a few bags is quite an exercise in trust and faith and letting go and like sourcing your safety from within rather than sourcing your safety in the shit that you have around you, or that you think that you'll need to survive, which, you know, we arguably don't really need anything to survive other than our breath and some water and some food, which some people are breatharians. They don't even eat. So maybe all we need is our breath. There's a breatharian festival apparently going on in Italy that a woman who is in my kindred teacher circle, she joined Kindred back in February, and my intuition screamed at me, get to know her, talk to her. Like, I was just like, okay. And so I was like, hey, who are you? What do you do? And we need to talk. And she's like, okay. She's super sweet. And it turns out, so this is back in February, we're in July now. It turns out that she and I are landing in Rome on the same day, which is July 29th. And she will be facilitating at a Pranic festival in Italy that is 30 minutes from Ananda Assisi, where I'm going to be staying and where I lived for a year. And she's going sailing after she's done facilitating this festival, which, like, that's one of my obsessions and dreams, is to live on a sailboat and to sail. And I've had that dream for 25 years now. And I used to sail out of LA when I lived in Los Angeles, and she's never sailed. And she has a friend in the Netherlands who invited her to go sailing with her. And this woman in the Netherlands runs a school for teaching children how to sail in Croatia, which I've been wanting to go to Croatia for, I don't know, 15 years maybe. And I have 2 children that will need to learn how to sail because that's what I want to fucking do. So yeah, life is amazing and intense and beautiful. And I am just expanding my capacity to trust and to receive and to just let life delight me and surprise me. A fun thing that I've been playing with friends, just the concept, like, what if God wants to worship you? What if Goddess wants to worship you? Like, will you let the divine worship you through co-creating your dreams in the physical world, in the physical realm? Like, why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't we play like this? And if the divine isn't some angry, judgmental, punishing, narcissistic being in the sky, like, which it's not, God, the divine, Goddess, all the oneness, all that is, it's hard to even fit into fucking words. And I also, another thing is when you refer to the divine as God, because that's been masculinized, or as a he, you're cutting yourself off from an entire half of divinity. So one of my big drivers is to, figure out how to use our words to get closer to the truth of a divinity that isn't sexed. Or if we're going to sex it, like, God is a man for women, and for men, God is a goddess. Because then you can worship the divine in the other. Or you can pick whatever fucking gender that you're sexually attracted to. Or if you're not attracted to anything, then maybe you go with a genderless they, them. But that concept is fun to play with too. Like, what if the feminine embodiment is meant to worship and be worshipped by the masculine embodiment of the divine, and the masculine embodied humans are meant to worship and be worshipped by the feminine embodiment of the divine, and like worshiping each other through each other. Like, this sounds good to me. Like, let's rewrite all of these stories that have been pretty shitty for the last few thousand years, that have created more separation, that have created more fucking wars, that have created, hierarchy and suffering. And let's move towards thriving for all beings. We could easily, if we decided tomorrow, like for COVID, when they decide to shut everything down, we could easily create thriving for all beings on this planet. There is enough money, there is enough genius, there is enough technology that can be used in a heart-centered way that's already out of the ground that we wouldn't even need to mine anything, ever again. We could achieve thriving for all beings. And that's not just living beings. I'm talking about like non-sentient beings that we label non-sentient, like plants and rocks and crystals and the earth itself. We could easily create thriving for all beings. And that's my goal. Like, not that I believe, I don't know, maybe I do believe. Can I believe that we'll get there? Because I think it's doable. For me, COVID showed me that on a global level that we can change everything, like within a matter of days if we want to. We can shut down all the planes, all the factories.
Water pop with them.
Yeah. You gotta find your bathing suit. Okay, thanks. So this is the vision that I'm holding. This is like the focus for all that I'm doing is thriving for all beings. And I think that what we need to do first is connect to our own joy and connect to our own sense of wholeness and safety and divinity within our bodies, and then begin to express that outward. And like, if every 8 billion fucking human, not that that's going to happen, but I'm going to vision it, I'm going to be delusionally hopeful and be a visionary seer, which I am. If 8 billion people were connected to their own divinity through their heart and their joy and their love and their pleasure and their erotic aliveness, it's heaven on earth. It's heaven on earth. So join me. Join my cult of love and joy and aliveness and enjoyment and pleasure and eros. And we got to talk about eros too, because eros is not just sexual energy or sexuality. Eros is being fully alive. And what are humans here to do if not be fully alive? Okay, bye. How do I turn this off? End stream.